Hi, everybody. We have on with us today three unbelievable cinematographers that are going to be presenting at the upcoming CineSummit, and we're going to bombard them with some questions about cameras. What would they choose today? Why would they choose them? What is the best specs? What specs do they care about? All these kind of things. Let's check it out. It's going to be with Manuel Alberto Claro. We're going to have Andrew Shulkind and Phil Briggs, and each one of these guys have shot the most high-end brand commercial. Manuel Alberto, for example, shot many feature films, Melancholia, the latest Chris Rock movie called Top 5. So these are the guys that are in the space, they're doing it. Let's hear from them, what cameras they would choose, why they choose them, what do they like, and all that good stuff. So the first question is, which I'm asking everybody, is if you were purchasing a camera today for yourself to own, this is not renting, not a studio that says you can pick out any camera you want in the world. If you were buying one for yourself so that you can own it and so that you can shoot things like indies and shorts, commercial work, things of that nature, what would be the camera that you choose?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm really intrigued by this new Canon C300 Mark II. I think Canon has just killed it, in terms of the affordable market that you can make really impressive content with. I mean, their low light sensitivity is amazing. And I think, and you're able to kind of capture kind of raw and also, a look that you get coming right out of the camera that's usable. So I would say I'm sort of between the Canon. I'm increasingly interested in what Sony's doing with the A7s in general. I don't love Sony, to be honest with you. I feel like their glass isn't great. It's great. It's too great. It's almost too sharp. And so I like to degrade the image, especially now when it's all about capturing, when it's all about just getting that crisp image. I like to soften it a little bit, right. Especially in 4K. And so, if you're taking kind of Alexa and Red out of the running, C500's pricier. I'm intrigued by the C300.
So you feel it has enough bang for its buck? Obviously, if money was an issue, you'd probably go with, something even higher, maybe?
To be totally honest with you, I've tried to avoid doing that as much as possible. I have a bunch of still cameras that I use. I just bought an A7S, and I've tried to avoid buying cameras because I think it backs you into using one specific thing that may not always be right for the job. So that's my attitude about that in general. But if I were buying something and I knew I was doing a project, I just bought this A7S actually for a project. So maybe that's exactly what I said I wouldn't do. But it's impressive. I don't know that I would shoot an entire movie on an A7S, but for commercials and stuff like that, it's extraordinary.
First of all, what I look for in a camera is the image quality, is the colors, does it look natural, does it look beautiful, I look a lot on skin tones, and is the image an image that I can work with afterwards? Does it have color grading, some latitude within the colors, within the contrast, so you get decent highlights. That's often a problem with the cheaper cameras, stuff like that. That's a lot what I look for. Then of course there's also what is very important are you actually able to work with it on a set, on an everyday in a working condition and a working environment? Can you work with that camera? Is it manageable? Does it fit to your body? Does it fit to your hands? Stuff like that is super important.
Obviously, the Arri is, the camera of choice for a lot of people, and now that they have the Mini, that's going to be much more affordable, and a lot of people that were in the Reds and that kind of stuff are probably going to go that route. What would you say what would be your choice if it was something, in the, like half that price range, in the 10,000, 20,000, somewhere in there? What's interesting you right now, and why?
So I would say that the Red Scarlet would be my midway point. To me, the Scarlet, has a similar look to the Epic and to the Dragon. It depends on which sensor you have, the MX or the Dragon sensor, but very very similar to the higher end Epic, but half the price, maybe 2/3 the price, but definitely affordable. And I like the look of Red. I like the look of like we were talking about earlier, the Alexa. I'm not much of a tech guy when it comes to cameras. Like, I know it sounds artsy fartsy, but like composition and lighting is what gets me excited, and the cameras are a tool to do that. And because of the looks that I can get with the certain cameras that I like, it complements what I'm really passionate about. So if you're going to push me though in the technical realm of going, Phil, I got to get something out of you that is technical. I'm going to say the dynamic range, how many stops of latitude that it has, and the color space, how workable those two things are, and how much flexibility they give me in post. So those would be my two top things.
I guess the first one, and I wouldn't have needed this necessarily, probably like a couple of years ago, but all the cameras basically have some sort of RAW or at least log format now, and that's basically required because why work with like an 8-bit file that's going to clip really quickly? It's nice to have the log and the RAW now. We look at the Blackmagic camera comes out with like ProRes RAW, or is it a ProRes RAW? I forget. Something like that. Something that's easy to work with, but it's this kind of like nice RAW format that has a lot of data in it. I think that's really important, and I think that's where Blackmagic and Aja really have some momentum and potential. Is that like, oh, we're delivering like these like kind of like red quality RAW files, or even bigger potentially, at like this incredibly affordable price. I mean, that's like the main thing I think you're really looking for in format, is like how nice is their RAW format, how much can you play with it. Honestly, how close is it to like a still camera's RAW format? That's what we're always trying to get to. Even an Arri RAW is not as good as like a Hasselblad or Mamiya RAW. I mean, because those are like 60 megapixel, sensor or images, and I think they're like 16-bit. They're huge. They're like the really big files. So, I mean, long story short, is the RAW format. That's really what we're looking for. And then, I guess for fun things, I think the Sony cameras are really cool that they can do these like really burst high speed. I know some guys that all they shoot is Phantom, and all they shoot is like really high speed stuff, that bought the FS7 or the FS100 or whichever one does it does like 450 burst for like a little bit and like this low resolution, but they use that for testing when they don't want to have this big expensive Phantom on set. You can do these kind of like incredibly high speed shots that were never possible and still aren't possible on like an Alexa.
Obviously, it's not going to do for you what a C300 and up is going to do for you. So what are you not getting, and how can you make up for it, right? You're not getting that same dynamic range. You're not getting a lot of things, 8-bit and God knows what other issues, right?
The dynamic range isn't far off. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've certainly used 5Ds, even 7Ds, and hidden that range, hidden the limitations of the range. And I think it's all about lighting. But the only difference between those cameras in terms of seeing it on screen is keeping the latitude, working within the latitude of the camera. So not trying to force. You shoot film and you can shoot the sky. Who cares?
Right.
Like highlights look amazing.
Yeah.
And the bigger the pitch of film you get, the better. You're shooting 65, it's amazing. 35, still amazing. 16, pretty amazing.
Yeah.
With Alexa, it's also great in terms of being able to shoot the sky and tilt up and not have to worry about it. Red, pretty good. Sony, not great. Canon, still pretty good. So as long as you can kind of keep your whole exposure range of what you're shooting within the latitude of what the camera can capture, you're good.
On the low end of things, I always go into a project if I know it's a paid project or a paid job, and it's on the low end of things. Then a Canon 5D Mark III and some good Canon Cine Primes are going to be great for the job. If it's a project, though, it's a passion project. Somebody comes to me with a short film and I really love it and I'm really excited to work on it. Then I know it sounds funny, but I always push for a bigger camera and better lenses. And my approach to that is I tell the production, hey man, I'll come out and I'll shoot it for free. But maybe a fraction of what you'd pay me, let's put it into a camera and some lenses. And sometimes they'll come back to me and they'll say, well, we can get the camera, but we get these lenses. And then I'll reach into my own pocket and get the lenses that I want for the projects.
Well, I think the raw format and the dynamic range kind of go hand in hand.
Sure.
Um, I think they're pretty much the same thing, really. I mean, there's a lot of science behind, like real science behind, like the digital imager. You know, there's the sensor and there's the science behind like what it's taking in, and then there's the science of how you take the information from the sensor to a file format. And not a lot of people talk about that really. So you know, you could take the Alexa sensor, put it, and I'm not gonna say another manufacturer. You could put it in like someone else's camera body, and if you're not using the software basically to take the image off of the sensor the same way that Airy does, you're gonna get a worse image.
Interesting.
So that's why you see firmware updates. You know, that's why Red does a lot of things like that, and that's why you see every different manufacturer has a different format of RAW. It's basically, even if they all had the same sensor, it's how do you get that image off of the sensor and store it in a way that's best, and that's why it's kind of subjective. And Airy kind of hit it right on the head. Basically, when they created theirs, they do this thing where they don't compress anything on the sensor or through the processing until the very end. They'll process into ProRes or Airy Raw. But a lot of other cameras, you know, you're compressing right out of the gate, so you're already just like lowering the potential image quality.
Do you feel you could get a high budget look out of a 5D Mark III type of a camera? Obviously, there's going to be limitations, and obviously, you're going to have to make up for whatever it's lacking. But do you feel you could do that?
Definitely, I think. But you know, if you know the limitations, then you will be pretty well off. In the sense, the 5D, for example, as a lot of cheaper cameras have a problem with the rolling shutter, and I think that's probably its main problem. So if you, for example, know you have to shoot something on 5D, I would probably say, okay, let's do it pretty static. We have a camera that's pretty static, and make it a style, make it make it look like that's the way it was meant to be. I think what sums it up a little is this I call it like the chase for Ks, for the chase for high resolution, the 5K, 4K, 6K, all that stuff. It's like, for me, it's completely a misunderstood chase, because that's not what makes an image look good, in my opinion. This is, of course, we're talking about completely subjective taste stuff, but what makes an image look good in my world is the colors. Does it look natural? Does that person, does that face, transmit what I experience with my own eyes? Does it have some of that quality? And I think the whole chase for resolution is completely misunderstood. We should be chasing colors. We should be chasing maybe highlights, stuff like that. It's much more, in my opinion. I mean, once you reach the 2K, then we're fine. Then we're good. Then we have to go for the colors, for the highlights, for the contrast. Maybe for the light, for the sensibility of the what we were talking about, the dark light, the low light situations, that stuff. How does it handle low light? Can you keep a low light situation that still has this texture and quality?
Okay, so there you have it. I mean, you heard a lot of things. It went from the look, low light sensitivity, the dynamic range, rolling shutter, all these things. I think one of the main takeaways is basically the look. What do you like? What do you need? Dynamic range is obviously way up there, and I really love what Manuel said at the end, as far as let's shift the chase from these certain specs to the proper ones, color and the highlight roll off and things of that nature. But it's going to be different for everybody. You heard a lot. You can take it all and put it to use. And hopefully we'll see you guys at the upcoming CineSummit, where they will each be presenting, plus many more presenters. It's free for 2 days, so get on over there, and we'll see you at the event.